Welcome to episode 266 of the Whatnauts review show, where every week we pick a story and we talk about it. This could be a movie, TV series, anime, comic book, audio drama, all kinds of entertainment. We watch it, read it, listen to it, and then we come back here and we talk about it. My name is Melissa Wilkinson, and I am joined, as always, by Kyle Springer.
Extra podcast all about it. We have a good
will.
One.
You will listen all about it. Podcast is only our verb. It's not yours.
Ah, sure. Yeah. Is there a, you know how they have like different words in different languages for different feelings or stuff that we don't have here in English, right?
Sure.
I wonder if there is a verb in some other language that is like the act of listening to a podcast.
That is separate from like the word you use when you're listening to music or something.
Right. Yeah. Just like the feeling you get when you're listening to a podcast. I wonder if that's an actual thing.
It is a special feeling. Thank you for sharing this special time with us. I'm doing good. How has your weekend been?
My weekend has been okay so far. Not too eventful, can't complain, but I am getting ready to do some traveling this week. I have a little work trip. I get to go back to Richmond, where I used to live. And I actually get to stay with my old roommates and everything. So it's going to be a good trip. So I'm excited.
Pet the dogs.
Yeah.
Yes, that's very nice.
It's good stuff. What about you? How's your weekend been?
I went to a Shrek party on Friday night. I went to a special screening of Shrek 2 at my local Alamo Draft House. Yes, he was there.
What happened? What constitutes a Shrek party?
They called it a swamp party. We got little goodies with our ticket package. I don't have any of them within arm's reach, but we got a little felt Shrek ears headband and a fairy godmother wand, a single onion peel keychain that you could also like clip onto your Shrek ears. Like he's got an earring. And there's the scene in Shrek 2 where they go through the drive-thru at the Friar's Fat Boy. And so we got like a cardboard box, like a Happy Meal box. Nothing in it, just a piece of cardboard. We could fold it up and it would look like the medieval meal box from that place.
That's awesome. That sounds like so much fun.
Shrek 2 really hits. Seeing it in a theater for the first time since it came out in like 2004, it was delightful.
Oh, you went to a theater to
I went to
watch
a theater.
All of this?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Where'd you think I was?
This was at like someone's house. They were just like, hey guys, Shrek party at my house, right?
My good friend, first name Alamo, last name Draft House.
There you go. That's fun. Yeah, I saw those in theater. I don't think I've really seen them since. The only Shrek content that I have watched since then is what we did on the Patreon exclusive. The Shrek retold. Yeah. God, yeah. I've seen clips and stuff since then, but I don't think I've actually sat down to watch the movies since they came out. And I don't think I saw past 3.
There's one past 3. There is 4. Plus, like, your Puss in Boots. Your Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Relevant to our topic today, there is a Shrek stage musical. There is a filmed version of it that you can go watch somewhere. I think it was previously on Netflix. I don't know where it is now.
That's interesting. Well, speaking of stage musicals, what are we talking about today, Melissa?
We are doing a review show first. This is a set of pitches I've been wanting to do for a while. I gave you 3 filmed versions of live stage musicals, and the one you picked was Disney's Newsies live from the Pantages Theater in Hollywood, California.
Indeed. Yeah, I ended up picking this one because what you had pitched to me was a good like variety of scale of production You had one that you described as simple and understated, and it was kind of incredible how much they could do with almost nothing.
Come From Away, which is very minimal. It's very much like we have 12 chairs and we change out different hats.
Right. And then on the opposite end of that, you had one that was like, this is like an incredible grand scale production. Like you're not going to see anything better than this.
Which was the SpongeBob musical, which has really impressive production design and costuming on that one. Yeah. And yeah, you picked Newsies because you're like, I feel like this is the average of the two. This feels right in the middle. And I think this was a good choice. I think it's a nice sample of like, what is the average musical you could go see today? And what's a very attainable show for you to see?
Yeah.
I tried to pick filmed productions that were from the last handful of years to give you a fairly accurate representation of what you might see if you went to your local theater, you know, whatever your equivalent is there in Oklahoma City that like the big touring productions come through. I'm like, what is a good representation of what Kyle could see? And the other two musicals I think are still in like the Broadway touring circuit. Maybe they're more recent, but Newsies is like, you could see a community theater do this. You could see a high school or a college theater do this. This is the most attainable of the three musicals I presented you with.
Absolutely. And I think it ended up being a very apt choice for what is happening right now in the world. I mean, we have the writers and actors on strike right now, and I didn't know that was the plot of this movie, that they form a union and they go on strike. So it just felt right. It was just like, oh, what a little nice surprise.
It is very convenient timing.
Yeah, I guess that being said, something that you and I have briefly discussed off camera. I know that SAG-AFTRA has put out guidelines for what they want podcasters to do to help support them in the strike. We feel that we are kind of small time Joes, like we're just normal fans.
Absolutely, yes.
We don't think that the guidelines truly apply to us, but we are still like, well, we do a book club style podcast, so we maybe kind of dip our toes into that water, but we're not making any money off of this.
We've never had an ad. We've never had a sponsor. We get a handful of Patreon dollars a month.
Yeah, and that goes back into all the hosting platforms we do. So yeah, we've decided to keep trucking along. But I felt that was a good time to mention that. But if things update and they do are like, hey, even if you are small time, then you know maybe we'll see how we can pivot and see if we can continue the podcast while covering non-struck work. So yeah. I thought I should at least, since we will be talking about unions and strikes and all of that good stuff, because I am in full support of their strike and what they're up to right now. But yeah, so Melissa, Newsies, the Broadway musical. So you had seen this before, and I'm assuming you've seen the movie that this is based off of.
If I have seen the movie, it's when I was very little. But I have seen the live stage production before. I saw it in 2017, which was the same year this was filmed.
Okay, cool. Interesting. I don't think I've ever seen the movie, and you know me, I'm not the big like theater musical person compared to you. So I haven't seen like this was brand new to me. It felt like
that was the goal.
Yeah. So I ended up really enjoying this. I think
Nice.
the musical numbers were great. All of the dancing on stage was incredible. Even the set, it was really neat what they did with these like giant towers of these like
Yeah.
these stairs that have these not canopies but these like screens that can roll down, and they can project things on them, or they can roll them up, and it's supposed to be like a building. It has this industrial look that I think fits that time period a lot. And they move these things around, they twist them, they turn them. I think even with the way they filmed it, they did a good job to get different angles of the show, get things that maybe the audience wouldn't necessarily see to help heighten it. But yeah, I think overall they did a fantastic job with this. So I was I was glad that I got to watch this. So
Awesome. I'm happy you responded to this positively.
Yeah.
I had seen Newsies before. I remember that I liked it, but I didn't remember it very specifically. I think this is a great filmed version you can see. It's really up close and dynamic and energetic. It really wraps you up in it. It's very compelling energy. When you see a good musical, you feel like you want to jump in the air. Do you know those like restaurant commercials where it's like, we use only the freshest ingredients, and there's like a tomato that they throw through a stream of water in midair?
Yep.
A good musical makes you feel like that tomato.
Now you're just making me think of Kentaro, the Sweet Tooth Salary man, and all of his like orgasmic just food,
I am
it's
the
amazing.
peach. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
But the emotion of like the tomato leaps in the air. It's such a perfect round little tomato in this bright, clean water. The water shimmers. There's a light reflection as the tomato passes through it. It's this burst of like energy and clarity and excitement. And that's what a musical is.
Yeah, it makes you think that Burger King burgers actually look like the best burgers in the world, even if they're not. Which is not to say anything about the musical itself, but still, good stuff. Yeah. I had a blast with this. I haven't really ever seen any other kind of stage musical productions that have been filmed like this. I've really only ever been to a play like twice in my life. I mean, I've been in the like mandatory elementary school play where every kid has a speaking part, right?
Yes.
But I've only ever been to the theater that I can remember twice, and it coincidentally happened to be the exact same play,
right?
Not on purpose. It was the 39 Steps. The Alfred Hitchcock, I went with my mom one time when I was really, really young, and then I went in college to support a friend that had a role in a production of that, and I didn't know that was the play that they were doing, and so I like sat down and started watching it. I was like, this is familiar. Have I seen this before? And then they get handcuffed together, and I'm just like, oh, okay, yes, I remember this one. I've seen this. But that's my theater experience.
Wow,
that's kind of it. You go all the time. You have like a summer local theater production thing that you do.
I probably have a program right here. Yes, I do. St. Louis is blessed to have the Muni, which originated over 105 years ago as the Municipal Opera Company. And it's this big outdoor theater in Forest Park, our big central park of the city. Mm-hmm. And over the years, it's gone from old-timey 1910s opera to every summer they do a season of 7 Broadway caliber stage musicals. And these aren't like touring productions that come through. Like they put them on in the span of a week. They do everything in this outdoor theater with these like big set pieces, and there's like trees right there growing out of the stage, and you watch the whole thing as the sun sets. And it's got 11,000 seats, and the back 1,000 have always been free. If you show up early, you can sit there for free. And even like the seats you have to pay for start at like $15 or $18. Like it's very affordable. It's very attainable. And they've done so many shows my whole life. So I've grown up with this very accessible theater experience that I could go to, in addition to like community theater and high school theater that I would go to and things like that. Mm-hmm. And since I would go sporadically as a kid, and since I've been an adult, like for the past 10 years or so, I try and hit every single show every summer. So I see a lot of theater. There's shows that I've seen there. I've seen West Side Story there at least twice because I just see everything. And the more popular shows, they will do like every 7 or 8 years on a pretty tight rotation. St. Louis also has the Fox Theater, the Fabulous Fox, which is our very fancy theater. It looks a lot like the Pantages, which is the theater that you see in this filmed version of Newsies. And that's like the big touring national tours that come through. And I've seen in the last couple of years more shows there, you know, as I gain more disposable income as an adult, and Broadway is what I want to spend it on. I see that. Yes, I see a lot of theater. It's something I always try and make space for in my life. I probably with at least 7 Muni shows, and then I probably go to at least 1 or 2 other local like community things or things at the Fox every year. Yes, it's a lot. And watching this production, I didn't recognize any of the actors, but I was aware. You did?
I sure did. Yeah.
Who do you know?
The main actor, Jeremy, I forget his, let me look it up here. I have it here. Jeremy Jordan, who played Jack Kelly. I recognize him from the Supergirl show on CW. Which I think he then stepped down from the show to go film this, because you said this was filmed in 2017, which is I think kind of around the same time that he stepped down from that show. So yeah, I saw him and was like, I kind of recognize him from somewhere. Why do I know? And I looked him up, and he was like, yeah, he's on Supergirl. And I was like, yes, I know him.
That's nice.
He plays another reporter and a best friend of Supergirl, kind of like the Jimmy Olsen, but not, because there is Jimmy Olsen in that show. But he's also the son of Toy Man in that show. So he's like, am I gonna grow up to be a super villain like my dad? I don't want to be. So yeah,
another theme that's here in Newsies. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's fun. I don't specifically remember seeing any of these performers before, but there is a non-zero chance that I have seen them before. Just the sheer number of performers from, it's not all local performers that play at the Muni, although certainly there are many. The actor who plays Oogie Boogie Man in The Nightmare Before Christmas, he's a local guy. So you see him like at least once a summer.
Great.
He's got a great voice. It's always a delight when Ken Page is there. But he gets so many different actors from like all across the country. We've had a couple big names come through. I got to see John O'Hurley as King Arthur in Spam a lot.
That's cool.
I've gotten to see Corbin Bleu from the High School Musical films a couple times. He likes it here. He's really great. Justin Guarini, who was the runner-up in the first ever season of American Idol. Great.
Yep.
Another Muni repeat.
Wow.
We've been very fortunate.
Wow. Man, that's interesting. So in terms of plot of what the Newsies is about, let's do a quick plot synopsis for people who might not have seen the movie or the show, the stage play like me.
I believe this is a pretty close adaptation to the movie from the 90s. I think they've buffed up the lead girl's part a bit more to make her more of a protagonist and not just a love interest. Can't speak too much to the original film, but this is set in 1899. It's about these newsboys in New York City selling the papers, and the publisher of the papers, Joseph Pulitzer, decides to raise the prices. It's like, these newsies have to pay me 60 cents to get 100 papers instead of when they used to pay me 50 cents. And we don't buy back any papers that don't sell. So if there's like a boring headline one day, like I think in the movie, it's trolley strike enters third week. Just something that's like not going to get anybody's blood up. The papers don't sell as well and the newsboys are upset. Like, I gave you my precious 50 cents. I'm trying to get that money back. You're really making it hard on me. And now like I have to give you more money to make even less. And so all the newsboys band together and strike and reach out to other of the many, many child workers that existed in New York City in 1899.
Yeah, absolutely. From what I read on the Wikipedia page, I guess this is based off of true events. I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly how all of that actually went down. But I think this Broadway musical production, at least, is a great and fairly succinct way to tell that story. It's very clear in what its message is. It's very clear in the plot. The characters are a lot of fun. There's really only a couple main characters that you need to know. There's a couple side characters that have smaller parts but are still kind of elevated above like some of the
which is
extras.
How it often goes in a musical. Like, you've got your main protagonist, but then you will have other supporting characters who get like one feature number, like one of the other kids in the group. I watched this pretty much right after I pitched it to you last week, so some of the names have leached out of my head already, unfortunately. But like, one of the supporting kids gets the whole "I'm the King of New York" song and dance number, where after they make it into the paper, like, all these newsboys who sell the papers have never been in the paper before. And they're like, everybody's eyes are on us. We've really got the city's attention. We can win. We can do this. We feel on top of the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crutchy gets a whole number. There's a character with a crutch who everybody just calls Crutchy. She's also very 1899.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, I think now that we've done all of that, we will take a quick break for housekeeping. And when we come back, we will dive into spoilers. Like, is that a thing for musicals, for Broadway productions? Spoilers on
maybe.
Newsies?
I don't know. I mean, oftentimes when you go into it, it's like, well, I know Aaron Burr shoots Hamilton. I know Dorothy goes back to Kansas from Oz.
I know the West Side gets a story. I don't know. We'll be right back. Here at the Whatnauts, we make multiple different shows, and a lot of hard work goes into making them, so we would love it if you check them all out. If you enjoy our shows, patreon.com/thewhatnauts is the best place to show your support. For just $1 a month, you can get early access to episodes, and at our $3 tier, a Patreon-exclusive podcast, The Pilots Club. You can even get a shout-out and thank you on most of our shows at the $5 tier. And if you're one of our patrons already, thank you so much. It means the world to us. You can find out more information on our website, thewhatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. When you type in The Whatnauts, all of our shows will pop up right there. Just don't forget to give us a nice rating and review if you like the shows. You can also find us on YouTube and Twitch for video versions of the shows, trailer reactions, and live streams. And lastly, we have merch. if you want to grab yourself a shirt or a hoodie or a mug or something else, head over to the whatnauts.com/store to pick up some merch today. All right, we are back. Once again, a big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. We love you a lot. We appreciate you. Thank you. Speaking of Patreon, over on the Pilots Club this month, we covered the pilot of Veronica Mars, an interesting show from, I guess, early 2000, late 90s, right?
Yeah, 2004.
2004.
It had the same premiere date as Lost.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, and that was an interesting show. I had seen iZombie, which is by the same creator, so it was neat for me at least to see the kind of connections of like, yeah, this feels real similar. But I had always heard good things about Veronica Mars. So yeah, if you're interested in that, go check it out. That's at the Patreon tier of $3 and above. Right here on the review show this past week, we got to talk about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. We had a lot of fun with that. We got to dive into some of the comics. We read the first 3 volumes of the comics, which kind of picks up from the old show / movies, like briefly retells some of the plot points that were happening in that show, and then starts to take it in its own direction. And wow, they were so good. I had always heard good things. I expected them to be good, but even still, they exceeded my expectations. The art was fantastic. I really liked them a lot, and I think I might go back and continue reading them down the road. So yeah, we got to read some Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comics. And then over on the Reactor Core, we have a spoiler cast up for the Venture Bros. We also have a trailer reaction to the Continental, which just dropped a new official trailer. This is the spin-off show of John Wick in the 1970s about how Winston got control of the Continental. And the show looks really, really neat. It looks cool.
Yeah. Real high-end production values, real classy. Some of the best stuff out of John Wick. I'm happy it persists here.
It's great. Yeah. Indeed. Last but not least, over on the Captain's Log this past week, we got to Melissa introduced me to the Brave Boy Challenge.
Yes.
Which I won't explain it right now, but go check out the Captain's Log to find out exactly what that was. But Melissa, I texted you and I said, yes, challenge accepted. And completed. I have completed the Brave Boy Challenge.
I hope it was successful. I hope all parties enjoyed it.
They did, indeed. Good stuff. So go check out the Captain's Log. We have a lot of fun stuff here at the Whatnauts for you to check out. But yeah, without further ado, I guess the only other thing with the Captain's Log is because I'm traveling this week, we won't have the Captain's Log this week, but we will be back the week after. Yeah, just a heads up on that. But yeah, I guess without further ado, let's get back into the Newsies. That's our spoiler alert sound. So spoilers for the Newsies.
Right.
Don't read the headlines or you might get spoiled about what happens. Yeah. So let's start out with me recognizing the main actor. I kind of already said that I recognized him from Supergirl. But immediately, this is kind of one of the first things that came to mind. Melissa, I don't know how familiar you are with some of Superman's side characters, but he has this group of side characters called the Newsboy Legion. which
No,
essentially
I don't know
are
them.
the Newsies. Like
Wow.
they are just these like they're out there slinging papers and selling them, but Superman kind of uses them in the same way that the BBC Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch has the like network of homeless people that he like has. So he has like a network of these like news boys that can pass along info or stuff like that. And I'm just like, this reminds me a lot of that. And then here's this actor that I recognize from Supergirl, which the Superman and Supergirl mythology kind of revolve around this, like, I could be a reporter or Lois Lane, right? And here in this, we also have a very like Lois Lane type character. And again, I'm also terrible with names. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Catherine Plummer, is the name she publishes under. But yeah, I really just got this like old school Superman vibe like immediately with all of this, and I was like, this is kind of cool. Like I like this. This is fun.
I did think that as a comic book fan that Newsies might be a good musical theater entry point for you, because like all these kids feel like they grew up with Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes.
Oh sure,
I didn't even know about Superman's League of Newsboy Friends.
The Newsboy Legion.
I like to learn about it.
Yeah, which then it immediately made me think of like, there has to be some like Superman arc. I know there is. I've read some, but like, could I pitch something like that on the review show down the road just to be like, Melissa, more Newsies. Here we go. The Newsboy Legion. This has to be a Newsboy
the very
Legion
limited
comic.
genre of Newsies. We will cover it all.
Exactly. All three things.
When I watched this, I felt like you would be a newsie in a past life.
I like those style hats that they have. I own two of them, but they're much more like modern style of that hat. But before we started recording, I mentioned I did used to have like a newsy style hat, like leather. It looked like it was made in the 1920s. Like it looked like that kind of style hat. I don't have it anymore, or I would be here on the podcast being like, go check out the YouTube version. You can see me in my Newsies hat. I'm one of the boys.
Well, you have 10 weeks until we dress up for our Halloween episode. So you have time to acquire another Newsy hat.
I'll be a newsie for Halloween.
That's a very fun costume for somebody of any age.
Capitalists beware, I'm a newsie. And I'm on strike. But yeah. So I had a lot of fun with this. Something else that I thought was interesting, a connection that my partner made, who said she thinks she had seen the movie in school. Like it was one of the like end of the year, we don't have anything to do, let's just watch Disney's The Newsies. She was like, hey, some of this music or the themes in this sound an awful lot like The Little Mermaid.
Yes,
I'm setting you up, Melissa. Let's talk about the music.
Yes, this music is from Alan Menken, who scored your childhood. In his collaborations with his late partner, lyricist Howard Ashman and others, he did the music for Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Little Shop of Horrors. This is not our first Menken coverage on the show. You and I watched Frank Oz's Little Shop of Horrors first year of the podcast, I think.
Yeah.
This summer at the Muni has been a Menken heavy year because we saw Little Shop, we saw Beauty and the Beast. And the closer of the season is another Disney stage musical adaptation of one of their movies with Sister Act. I
Cool.
know the movie, but I've never seen Sister Act on stage, so I'm very excited for it. And the fact that they placed it as the closer for the season promises just a big blowout.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did not know that at the time, again, because I'm not a theater or musical person. Knowing that he did the music on this, you're wagging your finger at me for something.
You know what else Alan Menken scored? He's had such a huge career. I didn't even look him up. I'm just naming things off the top of my head. He wrote that Star Spangled Man with a Plan song from Captain America: The First Avenger.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, but like I not really being familiar with his career or not having that be a household name for me. When my partner mentioned that, I was just like, yeah, I guess you're right. Moving on. And then, yeah, this morning as I was getting ready for the podcast and opened up the Wikipedia page, it's like music by Alan Menken. And so I just went to his page to be like, I wonder what else he's done. It's like, oh, everything. Right. He's done everything. I know him. I know his work. Uh-huh. So that's good. I forget what song she mentioned it on, but it was like within the first third of them like wanting to go out to Santa Fe and just dreaming of a better life, like all of this stuff. And I was like, I want to be where the desert is. Where
yes, that's
drown because I can't breathe out of water.
Almost all musicals that follow a traditional structure have a number like that. It's called the I Want song. And you think about it, like part of your world, Belle singing, I want adventure in the great wide somewhere. The Skid Row song from Little Shop. SpongeBob's got one. Come From Away is a very like atypically styled musical. We wouldn't have had one if we watched that, I think. But yes, a common structure in a very wonderful, warm, familiar way. And like going to this outdoor theater every summer, I know like the pacing of, all right, the sun's going to set during the I Want song, because it's always like this certain amount of time into a show.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's an interesting way to structure it, because it sets up at the very least, it sets up like an emotional stake of like, this is my goal. This is where I want to get to. Even if I don't actually get there and the play doesn't take the character to that spot, we never get to Santa Fe in this, but it sets up the emotional stakes when he decides to stay and abandon that want for. But I do have my whole family here, and it's not necessarily like the I've got to be learning it in school. It's not the rising action, but what's the like hook thing that sets you up on the rising action?
Your inciting incident.
There you go. That thing. Like it has a similar function to that, where it's like, here's the hook. Here's the thing that you should potentially be looking out for. Because here in this, it also sets him up for like, well, maybe if we take this deal that looks out for my family, that gets you a little bit more money, like all like it helps to kind of inform you of who this character is or how he might make his decisions down the road. And I think this one was effective. So
there's really fun numbers in here. I've always remembered I'm the King of New York. That one's really stuck with me. But I love the big group opening number carrying the banner for us all. There's a lot of numbers kind of at that same like mood and tempo that are big dance numbers for all the boys to come in. And they're like long numbers that will have these like dance breaks in the middle. They'll be like whole 10-minute sequences or something. Those are such a delight. That is one of the strengths of this show, is not just the real bombastic, uplifting music, but the choreography of it. When I was going through lists of where can I find different filmed stage productions, a lot of the little blurbs I read about Newsies cited the show as being athletic. And I think that's true. It's a lot of jumping. It's a lot of like acrobatics. I was watching this with my roommate, who is a football player, a soccer player, an athlete of many different stripes. And she was getting so pumped up watching this. And she sees like one of the boys jump over another boy. She shoves me and she's like, that could be us. I want to do this.
Melissa, you and me, we could do this right now. Let's go.
And I thought of High School Musical, where Troy Bolton is like, I'm a jock. Can I also do musicals? Yes, they are.
Yes,
those Venn diagram circles overlap in some regards. Troy Bolton would have been great as a newsie.
Man, so I used to dance. Kind of a short-lived thing. I was never studio trained. I started in college, and it was hip hop. I for a short time was a boy, but that was the thing, is like I was not good at making things up on the spot. So I ended up going into choreography and learning a little bit more of like studio hip hop, some funk styles. I did take some contemporary classes and stuff like that. And having performed on stage where you are doing stuff like that, absolutely, I know how tiring it is to jump around on stage like that. It is, there'd be numbers where we'd stop and we'd hit that like final thing, and we're just like,
yes, yes.
Oh my God. And then we have to start the next one, right? And it's just like, fuck. Oh my God. Here we go. Okay.
Right?
I think of like Mob Psycho 100, where he's trying to keep up with all the athletes,
yes,
and he just can't. But to see them do all of that on stage while singing, it's just like, fuck me. Oh God,
right. And you do it
incredible.
Like in one continuous flawless run. I always get the secondhand nervous feeling watching these filmed productions. Like, you can't flub this up. Like, you shouldn't in general, but like tonight of all nights when the cameras are on you, like, don't trip over your words, don't trip over your feet. The precision that a musical theater performer has to do this every night in this one continuous thing where there are no takes. I mean, being an actor for like film or television also has its own challenges where, you do have to do the same thing over and over again to get it filmed. But theater actors, like, you do this every night, twice a day. If it's the weekends and you've got a matinee, you might do this like 8 times a week for like 18 months. And just the routine and the precision and how you keep your energy up so much, the strength of your mind to memorize everything, the strength of your body, the strength of your will and your spirit to like give everybody the best show you can give them, even if it is like Saturday at 2:00, like a year and a half in. That's remarkable. I feel like I'm witnessing a miracle every time I see a musical live.
Yeah. It's incredible just to see that they can hit these notes and they don't sound like they're straining themselves to sing and like stay in a certain range or volume level or stuff. It seems natural in the way that they do all of this stuff. Something else that this makes me think of, which got a lot of praise when people figured it out and noticed that it was happening is actually something in a video game. Insomniac made a Spider-Man game, Marvel's Spider-Man, and something that people noticed is that the voice lines that Peter Parker would have, he would be speaking them no matter if you're standing still, if you're running, if you're hiding, or if you're swinging across the city. But the way he would say the voice lines would change depending on what action you're doing. So if he is swinging, he is like, you would hear like some strain in his voice to be like, yeah, this is taking a lot out of him to swing across the city. And like that, like when people figured out that that's what was happening and like did multiple playthroughs to like record it and then get both versions of that, like blew people's minds of just like, that's so neat. And it would like flawlessly switch back and forth between them. And it makes me think of like if even Spider-Man has to like strain himself as he's speaking while he's swinging, like just the amount of like control that these actors have to make everything not sound strained, not sound like, okay, and here comes the big jump. Oh God. Right. Like, and to hit the note, to keep that note, to do all of this is just incredible. It's wow. It's the next level stuff.
Yes, that's what I love about going to see live theater is just, and most of the time when I go to a play, it's frequently something I have seen before. I'm always getting to see new things, but there are also shows like a West Side Story or a Wizard of Oz or a Beauty and the Beast that I've seen over and over again, like multiple times in my life, where it's like, there's no need to talk about the story anymore. Yeah, Harold Hill comes to town and he tries to sell you 76 trombones. We all know that. But it's like, what is this version of it doing that's really exciting? What are these performers doing? The set design, the lighting design. What is the energy here on this one night that I am here? It's so fun. And like, that's what I end up talking to my friends about during intermission. It's like, we don't need to talk about the plot. Plot's accepted as a given at this point.
Right. Yeah.
What?
Yes,
I do want to say, to talk about the presentation of this show. This is a really unique stage in that it seems very deep and very tall, like much taller than it is wide. It's not the proportions of most stages I have seen. It's like a stage in an IMAX aspect ratio almost. So when they build these big sort of like fire escapes and like scaffolding, like that big set piece, the almost Hollywood Squares looking thing that they do most of the show around.
Like Hollywood Squares, God.
Right. Exactly. It is a square. I've never seen such a square show before. It gives the show a really interesting energy to have everything be so tall. Like it really echoes the skyscrapers of the city, the sort of emotional journey of these kids just wanting to move up in the world, wanting to stand up for themselves. It echoes the choreography of just all the high jumps and like kids hopping on each other's shoulders and stuff that's in this show. Like it works. It's not just interesting on its own. Like it echoes other stuff that's going on around it. Yeah. And watching people climb up and down a scaffolding like that. The live show I got to see this week at the Muni was Rent, which has a kind of similar main set piece like that they go up and down and there's all these stairs and you just Donkey Kong your way up and down this thing. Rent also has a song about a character wanting to leave behind the busy New York life to go to Santa Fe. Just so specific. Yeah. I don't know if one of these informed the other, but I think that's very funny.
I wonder. Yeah, I wonder if that's like a callback. Like, why Santa Fe? Like, what about Santa Fe is? Is
it just fun to say? you can rhyme it with a lot of things. It's very rhymable
Sure can.
syllable sound.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the point. I don't know. I'd have to know a lot more about musical theater history than I do. I know a lot for the average person, but I'm not a full musical nerd the way some people are full musical nerds, and I really admire them for it. Like, I'm not the sort to just seek out and listen to soundtracks separate of the show. Like, it's too much of an emotional journey for me. Like, I can't just casually listen to the big climactic love ballad while I'm just trying to answer emails at work. Like, I love to see these things live, and I don't really like to just listen to songs a la carte outside of that context, you know? So I'm like, I'll wait until it comes through the city. And then for the really big shows, it's like Hamilton's come through the city a couple times. So I'm like, I know that's going to be really popular, really crowded. I'm okay. I'll see Hamilton on its like 5th rotation. I just saw Wicked for the first time this year.
There you go.
So I take my time with it if I can. Anything that's not at the Muni, I'm like, I'll get to it when I get to it.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the like production. We've talked a little bit about the music and the athleticism. Let's talk a little bit about like the actual story of what's happening. Here. So yeah, I think one of my favorite pieces that I kind of wished there was more of was Meta Larkin. She was a great character. I kind of would have liked to see her brothel, whatever that was exactly.
It's a dance hall. It's like they put on shows. I don't think any actual sex work is happening. It's just burlesque performances.
Brothel, not a brothel.
I mean, this is a Disney show. Like, if this show was in another hands, perhaps it is a brothel.
Yeah. But yeah, like that, I think was a portion of this that I think would have been, I mean, in a certain way, it is also kind of the antithesis of what is happening in this show and what like the way the production looks. Like everything is real industrial and just kind of bare bones. All of the actors are in, you know, just real simple clothes. They're kind of dirty. There's just this real simple vibe to it.
Yeah.
And then of course you go into like her place and it's the women in these extravagant lingerie and corsets and costumes and feathers and stuff like that. And that's why it was like it stood out of like, I want more of that. Like let's see more.
Yeah, it is a nice deviation in tone and in aesthetics. I do appreciate that. I do appreciate we get to have this very different type of a female number. I love whenever there's a performance within a show where somebody's at a club and they just sing one of those like flirty torch songs. That's always a delight. It's nice to see that these kids have an adult ally who's not just another scrappy kid like themselves, but there is an adult who's not even any other parents. Most of them are orphans, but there are the 2 boys whose dad like got his leg hurt in a trolley accident, so now they have to get the money for the family, and all the other boys make fun of them like, well, at least you go home and you have a mom and dad. We don't.
Right. Yeah.
So I liked having a non-literally parental adult figure watching out for these kids.
Yeah, that felt neat because I think a lot of places of business similar to what she operates often works like that, where like she is the den mother, so to speak. And if there are, whether they be younger kids or women who are in trouble or being hurt, like she will often step in to help them out, to shelter them, to look after them, feed them, offer them a place to work and make some money. And it's just I guess in an odd way, like it's a good sense of community that they have there, and they are building. And then, of course, that like this community that has built up between like the young children, the poor, the riffraff, the whoever it might be, are then like fighting against this capitalist up in his tall tower that just is completely out of touch, doesn't understand what's happening, and is like, I can teach them about economics. And it's like, I think someone needs to teach you about this is not working, like not at all.
It also struck me as funny that while the topic of the show is very pertinent and relevant today, it's not relatable in a more literal sense because there's no actual paperwork or regulations. The kids just decide we're a union now. We're going to stop working. We're going to call, even outside of our profession of being newsboys, no discussion of why it's boy exclusive. I would have liked, is there a girl who wants to sell papers? Is there an anybody's of this West Side Story? What's that kid's story? But they reach out to every other kid who works in a factory or in sewing clothes or what have you. Like, it's not just a strike specific to a profession. It's a strike specific to an entire demographic across all of these industries. And I'm like, I really admire what you kids are up to, but this is not replicatable in average times. It's so like unofficial and thrown together.
So that's the thing. Like around that time, I know Marxism is kind of around there. Communism is happening. Socialism, like all of that stuff is kind of on the rise. I'm not sure how much. I'm not a historian on all of that stuff, so I don't know how much of that had formalized. But I know a lot of laborers around that time were picking up on these ideas and starting to act out on them. And it. So, like, that might be fairly accurate. I'm not sure how formalized those things were.
I'm not saying
right?
It isn't accurate. I do imagine this was accurate to the time. I just think, like, this sort of scrappy unofficialness of it is not, like, can't correlate to today when there's so many, like, rules and regulations and, like, governing bodies and, like, contracts and everything. Yeah.
He's like, we need so much stuff before we can start a union, like membership. And they're all just like,
and everybody raises their hand, says, I'm a member. And they're like, well, that does it. We're done. We've got it.
Yeah. Like they like, I think that is part of the joke of like, hey, we know we don't have time in the musical to set up our bylaws and do all of that stuff. Right. So it's just like, we need members. All right, we're members. Right. And it's like, okay, sweet. Moving on. But yeah, they end up forming this union, and they have a small victory. But immediately after that, they kind of come into the reality of this might last a little bit longer than we were expecting, and we're already poor. How many days can we truly do this? Which just kind of hit me really hard, considering what was going on today and the strike that's happening today, especially with some of the recent comments that Bob Iger has made about the strike, being like, oh, we'll outright them until they've lost their homes and stuff. And again, this is on Disney Plus, where we watch this. It's just like, what do you say? Like, you idiot. Come on. I guess the difference today is also there's the, again, I don't know. I'm not super educated on everything that's happening. Is it the AMPTP or something like that?
Yes.
It's something like that. There was a great podcast that Remap Radio did. They invited Adam Conover, who you guys might remember from Adam Ruins Everything. He's in like the union leadership, I think, for the Writers Guild, or he's in on one of them. But he's in a high ranking position with them to just kind of explain exactly what they are asking for, all the stuff about artificial intelligence. But he ended up explaining like what that organization is, the AMPTP. I might be getting that wrong, but essentially that they're like this mercenary negotiating organization. So people like Bob Iger, or in the case of the Newsies here, in that people like Pulitzer won't even have to negotiate or deal with them, period. And so it is this, like, they are being paid to essentially just say no to whatever they ask. And so it's like negotiating with a brick wall. And that's just how the whole thing acts. So but that, like, when all that stuff happens, it, like, that hit me hard. I was just like, man, this is like, this is so, that was like, I knew this would be an interesting thing to talk about because of the union, but when that happened, especially, I was just like, man, this is hitting hard. They are not holding back.
And the thing about this story is that everything happens so fast. Like, there's no the meetings or warnings, or if you don't give us this, we are going to do this. And there's no time for anybody to prepare for anything. It's like Pulitzer makes this decision. It goes in effect in 12 hours. They strike that day. Like, this thing is so compressed. I think it takes like 5 days overall.
Lightning speed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, I just thought this was a really great, interesting choice for us to watch today. But yeah, they go on strike, and after this small victory, yeah, their next big play is like, hey, we're not the only ones who are being mistreated in this city. Let's open this strike up to a more general strike. Which I thought was an interesting move, but the musical also doesn't really do much with it. Like, we don't, like, beyond them being like, let's include them. There's nothing else. Like, we don't get to see them.
You
we
don't
get
go
to
over
hear.
there.
There's no musical number. There's no big, like, villain scene with all of the capitalists from all these different industries being like, let's team up, right?
Which is, I can imagine. I haven't seen the film. I think I did when I was like 6. It was very little. I have vague memories of the film. I certainly don't remember the climax. Maybe this wasn't the actual movie, but in the stage play, you can imagine that's like a weird overbalancing of resources where, okay, for the climax, we suddenly need like 30 extra kids that we need to bring in. Like, are we going to cut away and see like kids working in a factory, or like sewing garments, or in a the butcher shop, wherever kids worked? Like,
all dreaming about Santa Fe.
Right. It like becomes too big for the practical scope of the show to bring in all of these extra cast members. And so I think that is one of the things that where theater can be kind of limiting, is you typically don't have a million extra people. Like, you don't have extras, really. You've got this limited cast who you really need to like make the most out of. And when the show is already based on such a large group of these kids, there's not a lot of extra bodies around who can be like, I represent a kid who works at the docks.
Exactly. Though, that being said, I do think they effectively, they have a scene that is the like Avengers on your left moment, right? Where all the different boroughs show up to the meeting.
I love that.
That was a great number, which I saw on the Wikipedia page is an original number for the musical. That number is not, that scene might be in there, but that musical number was original to the production and not the actual movie. So that was neat. And I was funny. Like, yeah, hell yeah. And Brooklyn's here. Hell yeah, let's go.
The Brooklyn boys all arrive and like they're marching in. They're like, we're the boys from Brooklyn. You can't beat us. Like they've got every borough has its own civic pride and its own reputation and legacy. Like they're not rivals with each other necessarily. They're like, you don't go into that borough, you stay in here. But like they sort of have this respect of like, we're peers, we're colleagues in some way. Like the Brooklyn is the turning point. I like that everybody comes in holding like the name of their borough on a big sign, like it's footage from like old political rallies where a guy just has a sign that says Ohio.
Right. Yeah.
I'm waving the sign around, Ohio for Ike or whatever.
They have like yeah, they each have their little distinct spot that they're on stage. When Brooklyn showed up, I turned to my partner and was like, "They have real energy. We just went to go see Barbie here, and like they're just so happy. They're like, the boys are here, right?"
Yes, yes. This is such a boys musical. Another reason why really I thought you may gravitate towards it.
But yeah, even like it really felt like that like you said, they have that respect, they have that camaraderie. They're not rivals per se, but also they're kind of rivals, right?
Yes,
because they have that one guy. I don't remember his name, but he was like the lead Brooklyn boy, the one that was like named.
Yes.
And like they seem to have the same respect for him that they have for Jack.
Yes.
And it like, it's so interesting because it also reminded me of another Marvel movie, scene from Civil War, where Spider-Man is fighting Captain America, and he's like, "Where are you from?" He's like, "Queens." He's like, "Brooklyn."
Yeah,
right?
It's like in this we are brothers.
Right? He's like, I have that respect, but also, get out here, right? Like
it did remind me of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films where they're like, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh man, we have been completely poisoned by all of the Marvel stuff that we watch, and I like.
I think it's helpful. I think it's fun that we are watching the stage musical that you're not very familiar with this art form, but you've found so many ways to connect it to other things that you are into. Like this reminds me of a Spider-Man video game and a Superman comic. Like I think that's what's great is there is a musical for everybody. Maybe Cats isn't your vibe, but something is.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I had a blast with this. This was a lot of
good
fun. I did like the bit that like he ends up not being locked away, but like sent to sleep down in the bed. Like that was I wasn't sure exactly what was happening. He's not locked up. He can leave, but he's kind of confined to like, well, you'll sleep in the basement of my building because I said so. And I was just like, what? Why? But he sleeps on top of this printing press, which is the thing they use to then disseminate their own newspaper.
I did like that really period specific obstacle of, unlike today when if you want to get a message out, there's so many different ways. But back then it's like, if we are fighting against the newspaper men, how do we communicate to people? Because he owns every printing press. Right. And you can imagine a lot of these kids don't know how to like write more than their names. So it's not like Catherine can draft up one thing and then say, okay, everybody copy this. We're just going to hand out these pieces of paper. It's like they need a printing press. So they find this like kind of broken down older model down in a basement. And there's other obstacles like, all right, we got to get the kids from Brooklyn on our side. All right, somebody go walk to Brooklyn and tell them.
right? And they're all just like, I don't want to, it's too far. Or like, I'll
Right.
get beat up if I go over there. Like, no, I don't want to go over there. It's their turf. Yeah, I liked all of that stuff. I'm also currently watching a show on Netflix called The Get Down, which I've seen before, but it's about like the birth of hip hop and what was happening in New York at the time, and stuff like that comes up where it's just like, no, we can't go over there. It's their turf over there. We'll get beat up. So yeah, that's a lot of fun. But God, it's interesting to see them use this press, because I've also gotten to use one of those things.
Whoa.
Yeah, my degree in school was graphic design, and one of the classes that I got to take was a like old school printing press typesetting class. Like we had to do all of that and like operate the machine and stuff. So it was neat. But like, I've done that. That's fun. So yeah, I had an absolute blast watching this.
I'm happy. Thank you for going down this journey with me, indulging my love of musical theater, letting me bring a little bit of, like, we've covered musicals before. We talked about the Frank Oz Little Shop of Horrors. There's a musical episode of Fringe. Like, musical numbers have happened, but I wanted us to see something live on stage.
Yeah. Which was good. It was a good review show first. 200 something episodes in.
Right.
So the closest thing that I've done was cover the cast recording of Hamilton on the Whatnauts podcast, which was the version of this podcast before it was this podcast, right? Which was fun. We got the story of what happened, but there was no visual. Like we just had to kind of make it up in our head, which I know now there is like a recording of that, which I think is also on Disney Plus.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I came home and my roommate was watching that last night. I guess because she turned on Disney Plus, and after I watched Newsies, Disney Plus is like, do you want the one other of that thing that we have? The live Hamilton.
Right. Yeah.
So I just come home and she's like, I'm in it now. What did I miss?
To win it. Yeah, exactly. So I have nothing but good things to say about this. I enjoyed it. Go check it out.
Good.
Makes me want to go check out what the differences are in the movie. I know there's a few differences in musical numbers, some that were in the movie that weren't in the play, some that were in the play that weren't in the movie, but still just wanting to see how do they translate this into I guess they're not translating this into a movie, but what was the original take on all of this here? So good stuff indeed. Do you have any other kind of final thoughts, things that I missed that you want to point out? We haven't mentioned. I like what was his name? Roosevelt. Is that him? That was
President Teddy
in
Roosevelt. Yes, just showing up at the end. I feel like Annie also has that. Like the president shows up in Annie. I think I haven't seen it in a long time, but it's got a similar scene.
That'd be an so for our bingo cards, when we play review show bingo, that'd be an interesting one to do, especially for the quota one of like, I want to see the president show up 5 times, right? And
it could be in any context. It could be like Independence Day. It could be like when they call President Hoover in Being the Ricardos.
Exactly. So do you have any other last kind of final thoughts that you want to do, or should we get on to?
I have a bunch of stuff for recommendations. Let's run through bingo and then we can go to everything I have to recommend.
Sure. Yeah. I am pulling up our bingo cards on screen. We like to play review show bingo with a bunch of different movie and TV and comic book and entertainment tropes. I don't know if this would have been a great one to get a big puddle splash.
Man,
right?
maybe
like
it's in the movie, but they just couldn't do it on stage. Yeah.
This is probably another one where we don't truly have an update. No new cards have been filled out. No new bingos. It just gets more and more difficult to fill out these last and final squares the further we get on into the year here. But hopefully down the road we'll get a few more of these before the year's up. Melissa, you are dominating the bingo game right now. You have like 4 spaces left. I have like 9, 10 left. So, oh well. Okay, so that is our whoops. Okay, yeah, there we go. That's our update for bingo. Let's get on to recommendations. Melissa, you said you had a bunch of recommendations. Let's hear them.
If you like Newsies specifically, if you like the choreography style of this, I think it is a very close match to West Side Story, which is also like gangs of teen boys beefing over turf, these very sort of jabby, punchy, jumpy, acrobatic, athletic choreography styles like the king of dance fighting is West Side Story. Just always a beautiful show. I've seen it live a couple times. Of course, I encourage you to see all of these things live, but with West Side Story, you've got the original musical movie from, I think, Jerome Robbins and Robert Wise, the one from the 60s, and the Steven Spielberg remake of it from a couple of years ago is also very strong. I would also suggest Mary Poppins for the chimney sweep dances. If you want other like scrappy, dirty, working class hopping around on top of a building, Mary Poppins is the best of that. Les Miserables, another story of, again, just gangs of boys in like little vests rebelling against something. They build a big barricade of all this furniture. Somebody climbs on top of the barricade, waves a big French flag. You've got a kid in that, just the way this musical has, like, we have one kid, like 9-year-old. Yeah. That's another one where it's like
fantastic in this one. By the way,
a wonderful kid. Yes, is it named Les?
Something like that.
I think so. I thought it was funny because the shortest kid is named Les. There's literally less of him. Yes. In Les Mis, you've got Gavroche. If you're a little boy who wants to get into musicals, like there's a whole cycle of these characters you can play. You can do a Les, you can do a Gavroche, you can do a Winthrop in Music Man.
Yeah.
Another thing similar for the choreography style is Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. And this was something I'd heard about. This is an older show. And I'd heard like, the story really isn't aged well, but like the choreography, the big song and dance numbers of this thing are incredible. And I saw it live and I'm like, that was great. And then I saw the original movie from like the 50s or 60s. And I'm like, oh, this is what people are talking about. When I saw it live, I must have seen an updated script. Because the story for this is that it's set in like the mountains of the 1800s. And this like mountain man, like hunter fur trapper guy goes into town and he's like, I want a wife. One wife, please. I think a wife would be very helpful to me. And he finds this, he goes into town, he gets like, I'm here to trade my stuff. This is the one time where I go get like
Walmart, like, I want one wife, please.
He's like, I'm going to go get bathed and shaved and like get a new set of clothes, have my clothes go through a professional laundry, whatever. He goes in town, he gets cleaned up and he finds this lady working at a restaurant who's like orphaned. She really just works at that restaurant. And he convinces her, like they do have this sort of bickering but charming meet cute, and he's like, I'd like to have a wife, please. I think you'd be really good at that. I'd treat you well. We have a beautiful home. She's like, okay, all right. And so she marries him. They go up to his home in the mountains and he's got 6 kid brothers that he didn't tell her about. And it's like, yeah, our parents died, I take care of them. And she's like, well, now I take care of them. I didn't sign up for that. I agreed to be like your wife, not also the mom to these 6 rowdy boys. She's like, they have to get their own wives if they want somebody to like cook and clean for them. And they all go back into town for this like barn raising like dance party, which is incredible. This is the number people are talking about in Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. Just all like these mountain boys get into a dance off with like the boys from the town. It's kind of like Natu, where they're like, we're going to show these uptight British nerds how we really dance here in India.
There you go.
And then, based on some old story in the Bible, these boys are like, I say boys, I mean, they're men. They're not as young as Newsies. They're like, we need to go kidnap these women and then they will marry us. Like this one old Bible story says. And in the stage musical, the more recent smoothed over adaptation, these women are like, and like these are all girls that they met when they go into town for the barn dance and they kind of flirt with. They come back, they're like, we were going to kidnap you. We found the idea in a book. We're sorry. And they're like, kidnap us? Yes. Oh no, we're being kidnapped. Here we go off into the mountains. We definitely didn't choose this of our own volition to go against our father's wishes. We're being kidnapped. Like they lean into it because they have like such limited agency and like all their dads are going to be mad at them. So they just like agree to go along with it as a lie, like wink, we're being kidnapped. Wink. We sincerely do want to go with these men and maybe marry them. In the original movie, no, it is a full kidnapping. All those women are screaming. So I recommend
them, they will marry us. That's how love works, right?
Yes. So I recommend the live stage production. I think I believe, I don't know the status of like who's using an updated script and when, but like if you can see that show live, I really had a lot of fun with it.
I was hoping that this Newsies. No, I guess not hoping, but I saw a few instances that they could have had jokes, like more modern jokes in there. Like, it was one thing about like them wanting to figure out like how do we like find out this information or something like that, and someone was just like, oh, you can look it up or there's something like that. I was like, they could have just said you can Google it and move on, right? Just like no, obviously they can't. It's set in the 1899, right? But just the fact that like one of the kids could have been like, if only there was some sort of a computational machine where we could send in a query for information. Hey Jeeves, you know where we can find one of those?
I also recommend playing right now in Disney's California Adventure is not a full-length musical, but like a one-act musical of Rogers the Musical, which you saw the one number from in the Hawkeye series on Disney Plus. They wrote a whole maybe 30-minute show expanding on that you can see in the Avengers campus adjacent area of California Adventure. It's not there permanently. It's just there for a couple more weeks, but look it up on YouTube. The channel Ordinary Adventures does a lot of really nice theme park vlogging. They covered this whole show. New Rock Stars just did a breakdown, an Easter egg breakdown of Rogers the Musical, and they used the footage that Ordinary Adventures recorded. Look this up. It's so fun. And I've got, heard
good things. Yeah.
Yeah. Another Alan Menken number in there, similar sort of early 20th century, like scrappy boy vibes. I had great fun watching Rogers the Musical. Again, another way to bridge musical theater and comic book nerds.
Absolutely.
And finally, I took the liberty of Googling for you what is at your local theater in Oklahoma City.
Oh, there you go.
I'm on the website for OKC Broadway, and these are the live musicals you can see at the local Civic Center Music Hall. You can see, coming up over the next year, 6, which is a musical about the 6 wives of Henry VIII if they were all a girl group like the Spice Girls.
Nice.
It's a big, fun, sparkly, like pop musical. I haven't seen it, but people really love it. You can see the Tina Turner musical. You can see Les Mis. Les Mis is fun live. You can see Wicked. You can see Chicago, another classic. Chicago is always great fun. And you can see Mamma Mia, which is very silly. Mamma Mia is a great, like, wine ant good time.
Yep. Yeah.
Also, outside of the musical realm, on September 21st, you can go see a live orchestral accompaniment to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Amazing. That'd be great.
I just needed to make sure that you knew that. So take advantage. Please seek out your local theater. I talk directly to Kyle and to you, the audience. What's playing? What's playing in your town? What can you go see?
Go check it out. Good stuff. Good stuff.
I'm done. That's all.
Okay, so my recommendations. I already kind of pulled in the Supergirl connection. Interestingly enough, the CW, DC Comics, Arrowverse, whatever you kind of want to call them, those shows have a pretty decent history of casting actors that have backgrounds in musical theater. There's some Glee alumni in there. So every once in a while, they would do musical episodes. And it would always be like some villain has worked some magic so they can only speak in song, or they get transported to another dimension where the whole thing is a musical, right? But they actually do some pretty good fun stuff with that. So especially on the musical end, I would recommend Supergirl and the Flash. Those ones are the ones that stuck with the, like, what if we do a musical episode every so often? But yeah, let's see, what else? This one, yeah, I mean, here on the review show, we've already mentioned it. We covered Little Shop of Horrors earlier on the review show. That was a lot of fun. I still reference that just on my own. I'm always like, feed me, Seymour. I'm not as familiar with this, so I don't really know what to recommend. I could say something like the Peaky Blinders if you want more boys in the like early 1900s with those like newsy hats, people unionizing stuff like that, right?
Groups of dirty boys in hats. We've got more recommendations for you.
Absolutely, man. If you don't mind watching foreign shows, you can watch Babylon Berlin, which is a German show set in that same time period. It's a detective show, but again, dirty boys in hats, people unionizing, right? Stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that would be my recommendations. Go check out some Superman comics. Learn all about the Newsboy Legion, right? Who knows? It'll be good fun. But yeah, I guess that's all the recommendations that I have. So I am going to pull up my pitches for this next week here. Let me see here. What's the best way to do all of this stuff? So because I'm traveling, I can't really do a TV show, can't really do long stints of comics or anything like that. But I figured this would be a good time for me to pitch some audio dramas. Audio fiction, I think, is the more correct term, because not all of them are dramas. right?
Yeah.
They could be horrors, they could be comedies, they could be sci-fi, who knows what. But audio fiction podcasts. So let's see. The first one is one that I found called The White Vault. And I wanted to pitch season 1, which is a total of 10 episodes. I think this show has gone on to do 5 seasons in total. But this is a show. It says, follow the collected records of a repair team sent out to Outpost Faristed in the vast white wastes of Svalbard and unravel what lies waiting in the ice below. So this seems to be a horror podcast with some kind of found footage. This repair team kind of documenting what they are finding, what they are fixing, and yeah, the mysteries of this outpost that is in this mysterious, snowy, icy part of who knows where this is exactly located, but there seems to be some kind of mystery, maybe some kind of monster or alien or who knows what buried underneath the vault. The White Vault, season 1, 10 episodes. They're about 20 to 30 minute episodes.
Yeah.
And then I think it was, so I figured season 1 would be a good length for us to check out here with this. Then let's see here. What do I got? Pitch number 2. Let me look this up. I think this is actually one that you have pitched before, Melissa. It struck me as familiar. Or maybe I pitched it. I don't know. Let me see. This is Moonbase Theta Out. I don't remember if you had pitched this or not, but for some reason it was familiar. Moonbase Theta Out. It says it's a queer emotional sci-fi audio drama by DJ Silvis. It's set in 2098. The Moonbase program has been determined unprofitable. The last base, Theta, is 20 weeks from being decommissioned. Most of the crew is in stasis awaiting retrieval. 5 remain. Roger Brigado Fisher, Nessa Chong, Aishwini Ray, Mitchell Langlois, and Wilder. Join the crew of Moonbase Theta as they reach out to share the beauty, the isolation, and frustration, the love and enmity, the humor, and the tragedy, all count down the operation's end and what comes after. So I also wanted to do season 1 of this show. Season 1 has a much higher episode count, but much shorter run times. So there's 20 episodes in season 1, but they're all anywhere from like 5 minutes to like 13, 14 minutes, I think at most. Real quick, like 6-7 minute episodes. But one thing that is also really cool about this is that they have a super cut of the entire season. So if you don't want to do all of the episodes, you just want a single one that you can
That's nice.
Binge. Yeah, it's on their feed as MTO Combined Season 1. Just shortly after Season 1 has wrapped up. Moonbase Theta Out. Yeah, that is pitch number 2. And then pitch number 3. Let me get my notes up here so I know what it is. This is called Mockery Manor. And let me pull up the show here on my podcast app. It says It's the summer of 1989, somewhere in the deepest, darkest part of England. Mockery Manor is a theme park where people disappear, and it's up to a pair of chaotic teenage twins to catch a killer. This was a nominee for Best Fiction in the British Podcast Awards of 2020. If you like Hot Fuzz, The White Lotus, and Scream, then Mockery Manor is for you. Full cast, production, blah, 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 blah. So for this one, I also wanted to do season 1, which is 11 episodes. They're all about half an hour each. So yeah, pitch number 1 to review was the White Vault, mysterious horror audio drama. Moonbase Theta is pitch number 2. That seems to be a kind of queer sci-fi audio drama. And pitch number 3, Mockery Manor, seems to be kind of a horror comedy, from what I can understand here. And I guess to give some context, audio fiction podcasts are really neat because they can have such a wide variety of production values. And I think the last couple that we've done here on the podcast have been bigger productions with like bigger Hollywood actors, stuff like that. So I wanted to get stuff that was a smaller production, but still a production, like with actors and sound effects and stuff. And it's not the like one person in their bedroom doing all of the actors and stuff, which is still neat. But some lesser known productions.
This is what's so cool about audio fiction is that there's so much of it. In you've given me 3 things I've never heard of.
Cool. Good.
I hadn't pitched these before. I don't know why Moonbase Theta Out sounds familiar. I did pitch I know I pitched sci-fi ones. There's a show called Look Up that is about, it's like a romance between these 2 boys whose parents are astronauts who are supposed to be coming home from a like 5-year space mission or whatever. And these boys are like meeting each other again for the first time since they were like on this press tour as like the kids of the astronauts. And it's like a romance between the 2 of them as they just look up at the stars looking for old blinking light that says their parents
one of the ones that Berrigan Snow is in? I
think so, yeah.
He's fantastic. He's a great actor.
Bright Sessions did also have a musical episode. It's not just for TV. Yes. An audio drama can do it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love musical theater, and you've struck upon one of my other deep loves, which is theme parks. These are all very interesting pitches, but I gotta go with the theme park one, especially here towards the end of summer. Let's have like one last like summer vacation energy. Let's do the theme park one. Let's do Mockery Manor. Even though this is probably like a very drizzly, foggy British theme park. Not exactly what we're picturing here in America, but I'll take it.
Yeah. Man, I think this one looks really interesting. We've already kind of done a episode on the review show where there is a theme park where people are kids all the time and people are disappearing. That was in our Shazam comics.
We have covered a haunted theme park before.
Right. Yeah. So more haunted theme parks on this. I think that'll be great. So yeah, I think this will be a lot of fun. You can get this wherever you get your podcasts. Just type in Mockery Manor and it will pop up. I think they have gone on to do a couple seasons, 3 seasons total. But yeah, I'm interested to see what this is, because I don't know any of these actors. I don't know any of these production people behind it, all of that good stuff. So I think this will be a fun surprise for us for this next week, and something that I can listen to while I'm on the airplane.
Good. Very practical.
Yeah, good stuff indeed. So that's what we will cover this next week. Mockery Manor Season 1. And then be on the lookout for the end of the month when we cover the first, when we cover the first 3 volumes of Hellboy for our end of the month special.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that kind of about wraps us up for this week. So Melissa, where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT. And listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities. I'll tell you ahead of time, one of the reasons I picked Mockery Manor is that it reminds me of a show we did. Normally we talk about obscure, old like 90s and 2000s nostalgia, but there's a recent Netflix show called Dead End Paranormal Park.
Yeah.
That we did an episode on because it's one of my brother's new favorites. So there's similar stuff over there.
There you go. Good stuff. Good stuff. If you want to find me, I am at Yo Kyle Springer in most of the social media places, X and Threads and Blue Sky, all that good stuff. If you want to stay up to date with all of the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts, we are at the Whatnauts on most social media places, at the Whatnauts official on Threads. So please go like, share, and subscribe. For watching this on YouTube, we got plenty more videos right over there. This has been number 266, the Whatnauts review show. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.